Hi, and welcome to ZED Connect. Today we're going to be talking about the ELD mandate regulations for the United States that go live on December 18th, 2017. No. We're not going to be talking about the regulations themselves. We know that you guys have looked at the FMCSA's website, looked through all the print media, done your own research. No, we're not going to do all that. What we're actually going to do today is help answer and clarify some of the key questions or most frequently asked questions that have been raised by you over the year regarding the ELD mandates. There may be some questions you still have on your mind that haven't been answered by the media or on the FMCSA website very well, or whenever you've talked to ELD vendors. Maybe there are questions that you didn't get a very clear answer from. Or maybe you got an answer to that question, but are still not confident in the answer. But what we have done here at ZED Connect is we've collected from various resources, print media, social media, FMCSA, question and answer sessions, and even consultants to understand what is required to provide you the knowledge necessary for you to be confident that you are ELD compliant per the regulations. Keep in mind, as per the title, this is actually the fifth of 7 videos we've created on YouTube, so on ZED Connect's YouTube channel, under the ELD FAQ playlist, where we have provided the most frequently asked questions and provided very clear, simple to understand answers to each of those questions for you as a driver, owner, operator to make you confident in the ELD mandate. So if you hadn't had a chance, go to YouTube, check out ZED Connect's YouTube channel, and check our playlist, ELD FAQ. And for those of you who have not really done your research or really gone in depth to add more knowledge about the regulations, we've created additional playlists, not only on the hours of service regulations, but also the ELD mandate line by line as well, and very clear, simple to understand videos that you can watch or listen to during your road trips or on your shifts during your day. We also recommend, if you want to understand how easily it is to be ELD compliant, check out our ZED Connect YouTube channel, our playlist called ZED Connect Mobile. On there, we help you understand how easy it is to be ELD compliant through our mobile app that is available on Android or for Apple devices. But either way, let's get started. So in this session, we're going to be talking about drivers and ELDs and the most frequently asked questions raised by those 2 points. Before we get to that, we're just going to refresh again what we discussed in our prior 4 videos in this playlist. What is the big deal about the US ELD mandate regulations? Why do I have to comply to them as a driver or owner-operator? Well, the first key point here is the electronic login device or ELD mandate, effective on December 18th, 2017, so in a few days, requires most carriers and drivers to convert from using paper logs or logging software to a registered ELD if they do not have an automatic onboard recording device in use. In other words, if you're not using an AOBRD, you have to have an ELD by December 18th, period. For those folks who have an AOBRD installed in their trucks, well, you've got some leeway. There's a big but. You're allowed to keep that AOBRD and not replace it with ELD for another 2 years. But before December 16th, 2019, you sure as heck better make sure you have an ELD in place. Otherwise, when December 16th rolls around and you're doing that roadside inspection, that officer is going to say you are not compliant if he still sees an AOBRD in your truck. So do your diligence, do your research to get that AOBRD replaced before December 16th, 2019. Keep in mind, the ELD mandate has led to a lot of questions, with the government or the FMCSA continuously trying to clarify and tweak the regulation over the last few months to now weeks to days. I have 2 very good examples, and please pick up your ears for this because this might be some good news for some folks in certain industries. For example, FMCSA recently released and announced that there is now an agricultural exemption for certain operations in the agriculture industry. So those folks in the agriculture industry, please contact your state's Department of Transportation or go to the FMCSA website and check out that exemption. because that may enable you not to be required to use an ELD in your truck. So great news for you guys. Another example, for those folks that use rental trucks, there is now a rental truck exemption. Once again, definitely contact your state Department of Transportation or go to the FMCSA website to learn more. As noted before, the key thing with this video is we've done our best to find all the answers, or really the clearest answer for you to understand from the most common questions that have come up from either the FMCSA's many road shows, question and answer sessions, print media, drivers, owner-operators, fleet owners questions, and even those posted on social media, such as Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn. But we are focusing on helping you understand the basics of the ELD mandate so you are knowledgeable and confident on December 18th, 2017. So let's go get started. We're going to be talking about, in this video, drivers and ELDs. Also, key concern when the ELD mandate takes effect will be how thoroughly drivers, as well as fleet managers, fleet owners, and support personnel are trained on the ins and outs of working with the new rule. So the first question that comes out is, what electronic login device user accounts must be set up by a motor carrier? Good question. ELD user accounts must be set up by a motor carrier for commercial motor vehicle or CMV drivers who are employed by the motor carrier and who are required to use the ELD, and support personnel who have been authorized by the motor carrier to create, remove, and manage user accounts, configure allowed ELD parameters, and access, review, and manage ELD records on behalf of the motor carrier. Very key point here coming up next. A motor carrier must assign only one ELD driver account for each of its drivers required to use an ELD. So as a driver, you cannot have multiple accounts for ELD. Each driver account must be created by using the driver's commercial driver's license number or regular driver's license number and the state of jurisdiction that issued the driver's license. The driver's license information is only required to set up the driver's user account and verify his or her identity. It is not used as part of the daily process for entering duty status information. It's a one-time thing, drivers, owner-operators, that's just used to help identify you whenever your ELD data is sent to FMCSA. That's all. That and for setup. Pretty simple. Second question. How much time does daily logistics of running an ELD take? If your fleet is currently using paper logs, you will spend less time with ELDs, probably 15 to 30 minutes a day less for drivers, and several hours a week less for fleet managers, based on how big your fleet is. Second, ELDs will eliminate manual data entry, thus reducing errors and improving compliance. And fleet managers will only need to review exceptions, typically flagged by the ELD system, rather than log entries. So very key point about the difference between paper logs and ELDs. What kind of training will my drivers need? Well, some, because this is a big change, right? From paper logs to ELDs or digital ELDs. Drivers need to know more than just how to operate the device itself. In addition, during the transition to mandatory ELDs, there's bound to be some confusion during roadside inspections. For example, if drivers are operating under some kind of exemption, like maybe short haul, it's important that they understand that and be able to explain to enforcement officials what that exemption is and why they qualify. Per FMCSA, the more training that companies do or you do for your drivers and owner-operators that you work with, whatever kind of aids that you can have for drivers, the easier the roadside inspection process will be. So we recommend that you definitely go to the FMCSA website, maybe definitely develop some training material for your company to use. We'll also recommend you definitely recommend our YouTube channel, so have them go to ZED Connect's YouTube channel, check out the many playlists that we've created to help drivers understand the hours of service regulations and the ELD mandate regulations in particular, and definitely recommend they check out this FAQ playlist as well, just to help them become as knowledgeable and confident in being ELD compliant. What are the most likely areas of confusion drivers will face who have only used paper logs? This is our fourth question. The use of a smart device or tablet may confuse some drivers who are not as tech savvy. However, a majority of drivers already use a smartphone or tablet from day to day, especially when they're off shift, for example. Logging in and logging out at the correct time. Logging out at the wrong time will create duty hours where there shouldn't be any. Logging out too soon or too late will create a record that isn't accurate. So be very careful on that as to when you log in and when you log out of your ELD, because it may affect your driver records. Drivers need to do duty changes when they actually occur, not after the fact. And understand that automatic changes cannot be changed. We mentioned this before in the prior video. A good example is automatic change to driving from on duty or maybe off duty. That occurs whenever the vehicle speeds above 5 miles per hour. The minute the ELD detects that the vehicle is above 5 miles per hour, that is an automatic duty status change that cannot be edited. That's just one example. Operating past the limit and fixing the log at the end of the day is no longer possible with ELDs, as what you may have done with paper logs. So another big change. Finally, being able to converse with officers during roadside inspections can be a cause of confusion. So one thing to keep in mind, per the mandate, you're required to have in your truck what we call a roadside inspection card, which should be able to help you explain to the officer how to produce a DOT roadside inspection report for the officer during roadside inspections. And in addition, you're required to have your user manual in the truck as well. So if you don't have those documents in there and you have a DLD, contact your fleet manager or fleet owner and get those documents in your truck, because your officer during the roadside inspections is going to be checking for that to make sure you're ELD compliant as well. Finally, drivers who have no experience with electronic logs are often not familiar with the process during roadside inspection, will not know what other materials the officer will be asking to see. You see, I just mentioned it. It's one thing to be ELD compliant and have an ELD in your truck, but you can still also get in trouble if you don't have the required documents. So please make sure you have that roadside inspection card and your user manual, and of course have an ELD in your truck. Next question. What are the most likely areas of confusion drivers will face who have been using ARBRDs? Good question. The roadside inspection process and the editing process will likely be the biggest sticking points for drivers switching from ARBRDs to ELDs. For example, when using an ARBRD, the driver simply shows the officer the display and tells the officer to forward the records to the officer within 48 hours. However, if the driver is using an ELD, here is the difference. The driver must be able to send the records directly to the officer upon request, either using telematics or a local transfer method. And we're going to talk more about this in depth in a second. As far as edits, an ELD system allows the drivers to edit more entries than the driver can in an ARBRD. Editing driving time is still not allowed, and the driver must approve any edit made by back office personnel. The ability to edit more and approve edits made by others will confuse drivers unless they're trained on the processes involved. So some very key differences between ELDs and ARBRDs. So if you have an ARBRD in your truck, make sure you understand these differences so you can ensure that you're ELD compliant during roadside inspections. Next, what documents are drivers required to carry with them in the cab? We mentioned this before. First, you have to have the user manual for that ELD. Printed, not electronic. Printed, bound up in your truck, available to show to the officer. Second, I refer to it as a roadside inspection card, but in this case, it's an instruction sheet for transferring hours of service data or ELD data. Third, an instruction sheet for reporting possible ELD malfunctions. And then finally, a supply of paper log sheets as backup, just in case that ELD goes down due to a malfunction. So those are 4 key documents you need to have in your truck, in addition to having an ELD mounted in your truck for use. Next question. How do you handle personal conveyance with ELDs? This is a very good question. The rules about personal conveyance, drivers' off-duty use of the truck as a personal vehicle, have not changed. But with ELDs, those miles will be recorded automatically. So the rules created an optional driving category for authorized personal use, which is to be electronically recorded as off-duty on line 1. For instance, if the carrier allows the driver to drive the truck home from the terminal for the weekend once he's off-duty, the driver can choose personal conveyance instead of the regular driving category. Per FMCSA, if the driver is using the vehicle in a personal manner, that is going to further the operational position of the carrier, then it's not personal conveyance. In other words, if you're driving further than what would be considered personal driving, that is actually a driving state. So drivers, please be careful. Please go to the FMCSA website and understand what the difference is between driving and what is considered personal conveyance. And the most important recommendation is that whatever carriers decide to do about personal conveyance, they document that and have some kind of policy that they train their drivers on. So it's very clear whether they are or are not operating under personal conveyance. So one thing to keep in mind here is if you want a good example as to how personal conveyance could be handled with the ELD, go to ZED Connect's YouTube channel, check out our playlist called ZED Connect Mobile, and we discuss explicitly in not only our overview video, but also the one for the Hours of Service Status tab, what personal conveyance is all about, how do you select it, and how it is enabled not within the app, but outside through our fleet management portal by ZED Connect. So check us out, learn more about how to do personal conveyance by ZED Connect's mobile app for Android or Apple devices. Next question. What about unassigned driving, or what they call unidentified driving time? Will that be different from under AOBRDs? Good question. A driver must review any unassigned driving time when he or she logs into the ELD. If the unassigned records do not belong to the driver must indicate that in the ELD. If driving time logged under this unassigned account belongs to the driver must add that driving time to his or her own record. A motor carrier must either explain why the time is unassigned or assign the time to the appropriate driver. And finally, the motor carrier must retain unidentified driving records for at least 6 months as part of their hours of service ELD records and make them available to authorized safety officials. Pretty clear. So either as a driver or owner operator, you claim that time whenever you get an alert for them, or they get sent to your carrier where they have to get stored for 6 months, period. How are yard moves handled under ELDs, and how is that different from AOBRDs or paper logs? Well, the ELD mandate rules create a special driving category called yard moves, but its use is not required. If used, however, the yard moves are electronically recorded as on-duty, not driving time on line 4 of your day logs or driver logs. However, FMCSA did not provide a definition of what a yard is. So trucking companies have the opportunity to define a yard for their own operations. They should also consider providing instructions and training to their drivers on whether, where, and when they may select and use the yard move driving category, FMCSA says. No matter how each trucking company defines a yard and uses the yard moves category, a critical item to address with drivers is that they must remember to select and unselect the yard moves category on the ELD for it to properly record the driving time on a yard as on-duty, not driving time. Once again, just like personal conveyance, yard move is considered a special duty status that has to be enabled for you as a driver or owner-operator who's working for that company as a special duty status that can be used. And as I mentioned before, when we talk about personal conveyance, if you want a good example as to how to use yard move, how it works on the ELD, go to check out ZED Connect's YouTube page, and especially the playlist called ZED Connect Mobile, where in our overview video and also in our Hours of Service Status tab video, we discuss what yard move is all about, how to select it, how you're able to access it, and how it is displayed and time tracked within our ELD solution. So definitely check us out, ZED Connect YouTube channel, ZED Connect Mobile playlist. Next question. What do I do when I need to put a driver in a short-term rental truck? Good question. FMCSA announced that it will grant an exemption from being required to use electronic logging device or ELD to all drivers of property carrying commercial motor vehicles rented for 8 days or less, regardless of reason. So that refers back to what I mentioned earlier before about the rental truck exemption. FMCSA's ELD website says the motor carrier and the driver are responsible for ensuring that all the record of duty status information required by the hours of service rules is available for review by authorized safety officials at the roadside. If the driver uses multiple ELDs that are not compatible, The driver must either manually enter the missing duty status information or provide a printout from the other systems so that an accurate accounting of the duty status for their current and previous 7 days is available from the authorized safety official. Very key point. Please, please, please contact your state's Department of Transportation or go to the FMCSA website to understand what is going on with this new short-term rental truck exemption. Just came out in the last few days. Next question. What do drivers do who happen, for those cases where they happen to work with more than one company? Well, unfortunately, one of the shortcomings of the ELD rule is that it will cause problems for drivers who are working for a driver service or a temporary driving pool. These drivers will be unable to transfer their hours service information from one carrier to another, or from one ELD a company is using to another ELD that they're using. Even though this probably applies to a relatively small group of drivers, it will cause them an inconvenience. And FMCSA is sorry for that. But this is known as interoperability, and in drafting this rule, FMCSA chose not to address it. So it's still an unanswered question, but at the end of the day, you're going to have to be able to keep a record of duty status for each of those companies that you do work with, whether you decide to use the ELD for each of those companies, or track all of it on paper logs. But that is on you. You still have to keep a record of duty status regardless of the situation you're working with, whether it's for one company or multiple companies. Next question. How are team drivers handled under ELDs? This is a very good question. In the event of team drivers, the ELD must display the data for both co-drivers who were logged into the system. The driver who is not operating the vehicle may make entries over his or her own records when the vehicle is in motion. However, co-drivers cannot switch driving roles on the ELD when the vehicle is in motion. Remember, to be considered in motion for ELD, you have to be above 5 miles per hour. If one driver forgot to log out, driver account associated with the driving time records may be edited and reassigned between the team drivers. If there was a mistake resulting in a mismatch between the actual driver and the driver recorded by the ELD, and if both team drivers were indicated in one another's records as co-driver, then you can make an edit. However, each co-driver must confirm the change for the corrected action to take place. So very important case if you're in a team driving situation, how the ELD should be handled. Next question. How will slip seating work under ELDs? Well, slip seating drivers will sign into the ELD under their unique user ID and then sign out each time they start and finish their driving shift. Pretty straightforward. Sign in, log in, sign out, log out. What about my independent contractors as a fleet owner or company? Ultimately, an independent contractor or owner-operator is responsible to be compliant with the ELD mandate. However, for compatibility reasons, independent contractors and owner-operators may choose to use the ELD solution of the carrier they're working for. So, talk to an expert or independent contractor law to figure out if you can require a certain device without running afoul of employee misclassification issues. Owner-operators working under their own authority will have to acquire their own FMCSA-compliant ELD. It's a very important point for owner-operators, if you're all listening. Since the owner-operator in this case is also the carrier, the owner-operator will have two accounts. One is a fleet manager, the support side. One is a driver, the in-cab side. The rule requires those two accounts to be separate. Very important point for owner-operators. And that was our last question. So thank you guys very much for taking the time to listen to our frequently asked questions, and hopefully our answers were clear enough to help you be more knowledgeable and of course more confident in how to be ELD compliant. As we always recommend, please check out our ZED Connect YouTube channel. We have different playlists that we've created in very easy to bite-sized views for you to either binge watch or binge listen to while you're on the road during your shifts during a very busy holiday season. So you guys are going to be as confident and knowledgeable as possible on the ELD mandate. So when December 18th rolls around in a few days, you guys are confident during those roadside inspections that yes, I am ELD compliant. But at this time, we wanted to give a special shout out and thank you to the references that we use in creating these videos. The first and most important resource was FMCSA. Big thank you and shout out. Thank you for taking the time to do all those road shows and question and answer sessions and seminars during those various and multiple truck shows in different areas of the country. Second, and we highly recommend you check them out on Facebook. There are many Facebook Live videos created from an inspection officer perspective of the FMCSA ELD mandate by Officer Brent Hoover of the Indiana State Commercial Vehicle Enforcement Division. Definitely go to Facebook. Just look up the Indiana State Commercial Vehicle Enforcement Division and you'll find his videos. They made light of a very serious topic, but they're very informative for drivers and owner-operators. Several hundreds of questions were posted on these videos that Officer Hoover created. Very great resource. And finally, truckinginfo.com. Truckinginfo.com released a very comprehensive list of questions about the ELD mandate, and pretty much you can almost do like a control find on your mobile device or PC to search for maybe those questions that you might have in your mind that may have not been answered in these videos. Definitely go to truckinginfo.com, check out that site and that list. Very comprehensive. Thank you very much, truckinginfo.com. And that is pretty much it. Thank you for your time. We hope we're able to help you understand what it takes to be ELD compliant much easier. And as always, please, please, please be safe during this busy holiday season. And we look forward to helping you be ELD compliant. Thank you.